What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video, this time focused on loose graded vintage Star Wars figures. We've got everything from first 12 figures, a few Spanish variations, I believe, some last 17 figures, and then even a couple of nice high-grade Droids figures that were loose graded. And as always, thank you to my Patreon supporters. My patreon.com/actionfiguregrader website has all the details in case you want to join. So let's dig into some fantastic items. The first one is an AFA 85 Darth Vader, and this is a Hong Kong with the lettered on a saber hilt. This would be kind of an early saber, and so an early figure, early card back release for Darth Vader. Brand new K-style, beautiful figure. That one sold in a buy it now situation for $395 plus $10 shipping. That's a little higher than what I've seen. I was kind of expecting, somewhere in that $350 range, but someone did pay up for a nice, beautiful example of a Hong Kong Vader. Next up, there were a number of different UKG graded items that sold at auction here this past weekend that I'm going to cover. And the first one is one I'd love to get to for my Tuscan Raider run, and that's the Hollow Cheeks version of the Sand People. This one was graded 80%. Excuse my voice. I'm still recovering a little bit, but this one was the Hollow Cheeks, and you can see that right here. Graded UKG 80%, 85, 80, 85 were the subgrades. And the Hollow Tubes, Hollow Cheeks, Tuscan Raider is probably one of the more expensive variants you're going to find out there. This one did have the brand new K-style, and that one sold for 395 pounds in an auction on November 13th, which equates to about $463 US plus shipping. So really nice example there. Next up, we've got a UKG 85% NoCo Princess Leia first 12 figure, and this one was gorgeous. If I'd had some money, I would love to add this one to my collection. I only got a couple of Hong Kong variations. I've got the black belt and hair, and then the brown belt and hair version of Princess Leia for Hong Kong, but I don't have the NoCo, so these would appear on like Palitoy cards, Palitoy Tri-Logos, and it was graded 85, 85, 90 were the subscores on that one. That one sold in an auction for 340 pounds, or about $400 US plus shipping. And, that's about right. I mean, it seems like anything high grade, whether it's AFA, UKG, or CAS, if it's an 85 or above, you're going to be paying $350 to $400 minimum, and really more like $450 for an AFA 85 Princess Leia. They just have gotten very, very expensive. But that was a beautiful figure. Nice pickup by whoever got that one. This I thought was a great deal. I don't know what happened here, but this one was an AFA 85 ObiWan Kenobi with the light gray hair. This is the Hong Kong variation. Now, it was the older K-style, but it was an AFA 85, as you can see right here on the label. Light gray hair. AFA 85, it sold for 87 pounds, or about $101 US. That is a fantastic buy. And I think it's because this seller, Character Building 77, we're going to cover a number of other items that he had at auction around the same time, and that might be it. It's a strategy we've talked about where you can find maybe some of these more common items that are all ending around the same time of some more rare figures, and you can oftentimes get a good deal because people are overlooking them. All the bidders are kind of focused on some other characters, and but that is the lowest I've seen for an AFA 85 Ben Kenobi in a long time. Now, again, there was $56 shipping if you were in the US, but if you're in the UK and you're buying this for, let's call it 87 pounds plus probably 10 or 15 pounds shipping, that is a steal of a deal for a nice high-grade Obi-Wan. Here was a solid dome R2-D2 graded UKG 85%. This was a Hong Kong with the brand new K-style. That one sold for 245 pounds, or about $287 US. Again, I think another pretty fair deal. That sticker was in impeccable condition. Just some very, very light wear to the sticker, some scuffs on it, but nice and clean and white. It's not really yellowed at all, and the price reflected that, obviously. But that's still, in my mind, a pretty good deal. I mean, for an AFA 85, you're probably closer to $400. So to get a UKG 85% for, let's call that about 25% less, that's a pretty good buy right there. Next up, going back to some Spanish figures, we've got the Spanish PVP Hard Torso Stormtrooper, and this one was graded 85%. So very, very tough to find these Spanish figures. We've talked at length about how some of these Spanish figures have very bad paint applications. That's just a common defect for a lot of Spanish figures. And to get one as nice and white and bright as that one, That was gorgeous with a brand new case style. That one sold for 191 pounds or about 225 US dollars. Now, again, shipping to the US was pretty cost prohibitive. It was about $62 shipping. But if you're in the UK and you collect these Spanish figures, that was a really good buy in my mind. It's just not often you find a high-grade Spanish Stormtrooper that finishes below 200 pounds. That was a great buy. Next up was a Death Squad Commander, graded UKG 85%. That one was the Hong Kong. And this one looked to be the dark blue emblem on the chest. It's not labeled by that, labeled as that by UKG. AFA labels them as the light blue and dark blue emblem Hong Kongs. This one looks like the dark blue to me, but it's not labeled as such. But a pretty nice looking figure. It did have a little bit of belt wear, which in my mind, that it's such an obvious defect when you see the silver belt buckle have some rub on it. And I don't think AFA would have given this an 85. It probably would have been closer to an 80%, but it did sneak out the 85 with UKG, and it was a really nice looking figure. And again, the price reflected that. It sold for 135 pounds or about 158 US dollars. Now, again, if it was an AFA 85, it wouldn't have that rub on the silver buckle. It wouldn't. I don't think it would hit the 85 with AFA. But if it was an AFA 85, you're probably closer to $250 to $300 pretty easily, I think, for an AFA 85 for the same figure. Next up, this was another steal of a deal. This was a NoCo Chewbacca, so this would appear on like Palatoy cards. Really clean example. UKG 85%. That one sold for 57 pounds and change, or about 67 US dollars plus shipping. Now, again, the global shipping program really eats into your cost there. I mean, you're basically doubling the cost if you were buying this in the US. But you guys in the UK, you can get some really great deals on these high-grade UKG, harder to find NoCo figures. That's a really good deal if you were in the UK. Likewise, here's a NoCo Chewbacca AFA 85, and this was a buy it now situation. That one sold for $225 plus $9 shipping with the brand new case style. So you can just see the big price premium that we've got to pay over here in the US for NoCo figures. The NoCo figures were produced over in Europe, either in the Palatoy factory or like the French Meccano factory. And obviously there's Scar COOs or Bump COOs made by the Spanish factory. But look at that price difference. $67 versus $225 for the AFA example. So, collectors are willing to pay up for AFA 85s for some of these harder to find variants. Next up was a Boba Fett Taiwan UKG 85%. It did have the old case style, and it did look like the incorrect blaster, not the version 5 Imperial blaster. That's my very limited knowledge and based on the limited photos. It clearly is the Taiwan Fett, though. I can't tell what's going on his chest armor there. It looks like it has some light defects going on there on the chest armor. But it did get the UKG 85%. That one sold for 200 US dollars or about 170 pounds. Again, with a brand new case style and with the correct blaster, it's probably more like 350 to 400. But pretty good deal there for a Taiwan Fett, although I think it did have a mismatched accessory in that one. Next up was a beautiful painted helmet Taiwan Boba Fett. This is one of the tougher ones to find. Very, very expensive. Whether they're UKG or AFA or CAS, you're going to be paying a lot of money for the painted helmet Taiwan Fett. And this one had the brand new case style. I'm assuming that's the correct blaster. Hard to tell based on the photos. But this does a nice close-up so where you can very clearly see that it's the painted helmet Fett with the light chipping there on the helmet. But that one was graded UKG 80%, 85 for the figure. Paint was 80% for an overall 80. That one sold for 770 pounds or about 900 US dollars plus shipping. And, we've documented a few that were AFA 85s that were sold by like Collectible Investment Brokerage, which is affiliated with AFA. And they approached almost $2,000. And I've seen them sell for, $1,500 to $1,700 in an AFA 85 example on Facebook. So even away from eBay, they can command that kind of money. So, but for a UKG 80%, $900, that's probably about right. That's probably about market. Next up was a Brown Snake Hong Kong Yoda with a brand new case style, UKG 85%. That one sold at auction on November 13th for 200 pounds or about 235 US dollars. And that's about right. I think that's kind of a fair market value for that one. Beautiful example with kind of the Pac-Man eyes, and did have kind of a couple of really, really minor chips on the right hand for Yoda. Maybe a couple of little light scuffs on the feet as well. But beautiful example of Yoda with the Pac-Man eyes. And again, that one sold for $235 US. Next up was one I want this one so bad, but I didn't do it. This was a UKG 85% Hong Kong Cloud Car Pilot with the brand new K-Style. I still don't have a loose graded Cloud Car Pilot, and I've got certainly got a great run going for the mint on cards. I've got the revenge proof, but I don't have a loose graded Hong Kong Cloud Car Pilot yet, and this one did have the brand new K-Style, and I think whenever I do get one, it's going to have to be one with the brand new K-Style. It just looks so nice with the communicator and the blaster displayed like that. So I knew it was going to go for pretty good money. It sold for 161 pounds, or about 188 US. But again, for me in the US, you got to add another $62 for the global shipping program. But that was a really nice example, and congratulations whoever picked that one up, because I think that was worth every penny of that. Next up was another good deal by Character Building. This one was a U85, uncirculated 85 AFA flat finish 21B. It did have the older K-Style, but it sold for 56 pounds, which is about $65. That is a steal of a deal. And you got to remember, for some of these that have sold here recently with the older K-Styles, you can send them back into AFA. I've talked about this in the past. It costs about $35 to get the brand new K-Style, and it runs, apparently, it usually runs about 3 months to get them recased. And I've not had one where the grade has changed. Unless the peg broke off and it damaged the figure. I can't imagine that the grade would change if you decided you really wanted the updated K-Style. But a U85 flat finish 21B medical droid, I think that was a great price, $65 or 56 pounds if you're ever in the UK. Next up is another gorgeous example of a Leia Bouche. This one was the Made in Mexico baggie. So this was a Leia Bouche in a baggie. Very tough to find the Leia baggies. And this one was graded UKG 90%. Although you can see right here in the photos that it looks like some of the paint had worn off the helmet. And so it's got paint flakes inside the baggie there. So that probably happened after grading, given that it did get a 90%. So I'm not sure how accurate that grade is, given that the paint is kind of like falling off inside the bubble or inside the baggie. But that is a beautiful, very, very tough to find baggie. You just don't see that one pop up very much. And that one sold at auction as well for 345 pounds or about $404 US. I would have paid that all day long if I had the money for it. I've got a Meccano sales sample baggie. I've got a Return of the Jedi, I think it's an H baggie, Taiwan, but I don't have that one. That one would have been a nice kind of complement to my existing baggie run for Bouche. But it was not meant to be, Shelly. Really nice example, though, and congratulations whoever got that one. That is a beautiful, beautiful baggie. Next up, I got some Last 17 figures. I've got a UKG 85% Awing pilot, brand new K-Style. That one sold for 280 pounds and change, plus shipping, and that equates to about $330 US. I would have paid that all day long. I think that was a very, very fair price. One thing to keep in mind, though, the silver paint applications on the chest, this one did have some wear to it. So, again, I think an AFA 80 plus, probably, maybe an 80. It probably would not have hit the 85 with the scratching to the silver paint apps on that Awing pilot. But still, I mean, whatever. It's still a gorgeous example. And it's appropriately labeled, right? It says 80% for the paint subgrade. It did, UKG did round up to the 85 overall, but me personally, I think this probably hits an 80 or an 80 plus with AFA, but still, for that price, that's a bargain deal. Next up, the same seller also had the Imperial Gunner graded UKG 85%, straight 85s for the subscore. That one sold for 418 pounds or about $490 US plus shipping. That was a beautiful example there. Really, really pretty figure. That's another one I'd like to get. I've got like 4 or 5 different bootlegs for the Imperial Gunner. I've got the Uze Turkish bootleg, and I think I've got 3 or 4 Polish bootlegs, but I don't have the license figure. So that's one I definitely should try to pick up next year if the money makes itself available to me. But that's a gorgeous figure. One thing to keep in mind is the emblems on this one. You got to look at the shoulder emblems very, very carefully on these Imperial Gunners. This one had scratching through one of the emblems, and again, I don't think it would hit the 85 overall with AFA, but that's a pretty pronounced scratching going on through that emblem on his left hand shoulder there. So just kind of stuff you want to keep in mind if you're buying loose ungraded or loose graded. Just check it out, because you don't know how AFA and UKG will grade these things, and in this case I think it's probably a little overgraded again, but never mind that. In my opinion, it's still a beautiful figure, and and probably worth every penny. Next up was a UKG 85% old case style for Yak Face. Another last 17 figure that sold at auction for 597 pounds, or about 700 US dollars. I think that's spot on. I mean, that's kind of right in line. AFA 85s, we've documented multiple that have sold for $1,100 plus. So to get a UKG 85%, I think it's appropriately discounted. I mean, that's a big discount when you think about it. So again, it's an older case style, and so that kind of detracts a little bit from the presentation of it, but gorgeous example and worth every penny of 700 US dollars. Finally, we're going to finish off with a couple of loose graded Droids figures. Jan Tosh, older case style, but it's graded AFA 90. And again, this would be a nice candidate to send back in to get with a brand new case style. That one sold for 160 pounds, or about 187 US dollars plus shipping. Really cool figure there. You don't see those loose graded for whatever reason very often. And then finally, we've got Kia Mall. She was graded AFA 90. Again, older case style. That sold for 185 pounds, which is about 217 US dollars plus shipping. So pretty good deals overall, though. I mean, again, I think some of them were slightly overgraded maybe, but I think as long as you know that going in when you're bidding on them, and you bid appropriately and you don't overpay for them, and, you know, a UKG 85%, where you're getting a 20 to 40% discount on them versus an AFA 85, it's certainly a great example to include in your collection. And as I've talked about in my recent loose graded variant hunting video, where I picked up some really nice UKG 85% figures that in my mind are worth every penny of what I paid, and I paid them at a discount. You know, I bought them at a discount versus what an AFA 85 would sell for. So just some good ideas to kind of keep your budget in check as, you know, as maybe your spending tightens up a little bit like mine has. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.